Hi again, my name is Gene and I'm a new mentor for High School Robotics Team FRC 714. This video series is about how easy it is to program FRC robots in Python, the language of many modern apps and most AI products. If you're a mentor or a student thinking of switching all students on the team to Python, go ahead and start using our examples and never look back. Every student on the team will thank you later when they start looking for engineering internships or jobs after graduation or in college. This is a continuation of another video where we added an intake subsystem. And here we're going to start exactly where we left off. If you have not watched that video first, please watch it. And then you're ready to join us here. Let's get to it. On our GitHub, we have put a lot of examples of how to add different things to your robot. So link in the description. This is the page with a bunch of examples and code snippets. Today we're going to go to the next code snippet on adding a shooter subsystem. So let's just get to it. Let's click. And this is going to be a dual motor shooter. There are two motors. One motor in this shooter is going to copy what the other motor is doing. In other words, one motor is a lead motor and the other motor is a follow motor. What we need to do is we need to create another subsystem, subsystems/shooter.py. I'm opening up PyCharm exactly where we left off from the intake project, and I'm going to the subsystems folder, and I'm adding another subsystem, another file called shooter.py, like this. Add, why not? And I'm going to paste the code snippet for the shooter right into this file. Boom. The code snippet is here. So now we need to add one shooter to our robot actually. So we must go to robotcontainer.py file and find the init function in there. And then we need to add these two lines of code to add the shooter to our robot. There we go. I'm closing the subsystems. I'm going to robotcontainer.py and I need to find the init function. There, I found it. This is the init function, and this is where we add all the subsystems that the robot has. The intake is already here. Now we're going to add a shooter. And from subsystems shooter, we import shooter like this. And hey, now it's added to the init function. What's next? We need to find the function where the button bindings are configured, and inside of that function we need to add, let's use a Y button. Y button will be used to start the shooter when the button is true, which is pressed, with a velocity goal of 1500 RPM. And when the button is unpressed, which becomes false, we're going to call the shooter stop function to stop the shooter motors. So I'm going to copy this code and I'm going to go and find inside of robotcontainer.py, I'm going to find the configure button bindings function. Maybe it is somewhere closer to the bottom. Here, I found it, configure button bindings. So just to this function, I'm going to add the lines that we need to add. And if this is missing at the top, we'll have to add this at the top, but I know this is not missing. Okay, let's see if our code works. It's always a good idea to test things in simulation, because if something is broken, we better find this out in simulation. I'm going to switch to simulation configuration and hit run. The simulated robot graphical interface comes up. I have my Xbox controller, which I can switch to joystick 1 in here. I can switch my robot from disconnected to teleoperated. This is not a real robot, this is a simulated robot. And I think I'm ready to start pushing buttons. I'm going to push the Y button on the joystick to see if the simulated shooter on the robot starts working. To make it a little easier for you guys to see, I'm going to rearrange the windows like this. Now I'm pushing the Y button, and look what we see. We see that the shooter gets a velocity goal of 1500 RPM. I unpress the Y button, and the shooter stops. Fantastic. Let's try it on a real robot now. In order to deploy the code on the real robot, I must stop the simulation, of course, switch to the deploy configuration, and I need to connect to the Wi-Fi of my real robot, which is, let's see, is it here? Let's refresh the list. Yes, 8630 Wi-Fi is here. Let's deploy. We're connected to the Wi-Fi. I'm hitting the deploy button. It already knows the team number because we're just continuing where we started. And it says deploy was successful. I can pull up my driver station right now. The robot appears to be connected. I can switch it to a teleoperated mode in here and hit enable. Alright, so let's watch the shooter motor. This is the shooter motor. I'm about to push the Y button and the shooter will start. When I unpress the shooter button, the shooter stops. It's no longer spinning. Now, if it so happens that while the shooter is spinning, I feed the game piece into the shooter, it will shoot it out because it has very heavy flywheels. It worked. Next up, we're going to try connecting multiple subsystems together to do some complicated behaviors, for example, driving to pick up a game piece or feeding a game piece in order to shoot it. Until then.